It always used to seem to me when I was younger, the world was in a terrible shape and it was too hard to change it. And that you had to be a very sort of big person in order to be able to do that. And that I wasn't, and I would never be able to change anything or make any difference whatsoever. That's what I felt like. But I always wanted to. And then I think that finally, when I did what was right in front of me to do, which was use that huge amount of money I had to create social change, to make the world better, things changed for the better for me.
Mother Earth, we are grateful for our birth. Our rainbow loves do you embrace, shining in the night of space. You're our planet, green and blue, with a heart of fire inside of you. Mother Earth, we are grateful for our birth.
God bless Mama and Daddy and Janet and Benji and everybody all over the world. Amen.
I knelt by my bed facing the bay. If you looked out the window at night, you could see lights far across on the other side of the water. Those lights were part of everybody all over the world. In my imagination, I could see all the people I was praying for, who I would never know.
Well, I'm Ben Vaughan, and I'm Jen's younger brother. She was my sister with the customary sibling rivalries and quest for attention and struggles that any brother and sister have.
He had double-jointed toes, and he could walk on his toes. He got an awful lot of approval for that, and also for the fact that he was a boy. So, and I was not.
I'm not at all convinced that there was a tremendous amount of rivalry, simply because I was blessed that she was female, and that she was unfortunately expected to do a particular set of tasks, and I was expected to do a particular set of tasks, and there really wasn't much cross-pollination on that.
My grandfather died when I was 11. He had made his fortune in oil and gas. My father took care of my mother's family fortune for many years. He did that really well, and there was lots of money for all the heirs, including my brother and me.
We've just been friends for about as long as I can remember. We went to St. Patrick's School. We really had a lot of fun there.
Yet we were in a school where we all dressed alike, right down to our shoes, and there was no difference between us. But on this one day, there was a difference between us, because Jen had just come back from a trip abroad, and she was literally the first child in our class and probably the first person in that room to have been in an airplane.
I mean, it was 1951, and you could still see a whole lot of the effects of the war. And we went to orphanages where these children were orphans left from the war. And I met these kids, you know, it was amazing. I wanted to adopt a sister.
Jen questioned why they had so much and these people had so little. And she couldn't have been in the 4th grade, but already asking that kind of question.
Anyway, when I was 12, I went away to school, an all-girls school, Hockaday.
They felt that this was a good school and that in order to grow up and be successful as a woman, that's what you needed to do, and so off she went. And there's not the level of rebellion in 1950s as there is today. I mean, you don't just get a tattoo of a flower on your forehead and go in the opposite direction.
I applied to several Ivy League colleges and was accepted into all of them. Bryn Mawr was rated the best women's school at the time. However, it was before the big wave of feminism, and there were still pockets of misogyny. I remember when the head of the art department called a meeting of everybody taking art classes. And he said to us, I have been trying to understand what the reason would be to teach women other than that they will teach their sons someday. And I was flabbergasted. And he said, does anybody have any objection to that? And I was just in the first year and I didn't have the courage to raise my hand and object, but nobody else objected. That shows you what the atmosphere was in that time, and that was really the whole wave of feminism of the 60s had not happened, and so I just missed it. In fact, I remember having a boyfriend at one time who I told this idea I had, which was that women ought to just read things written by women. They should not read anything, any of the male philosophers or academics or anything, just stuff by women. And I remember I told him that, I was on the phone, and he said, get out of my life. I had these radical views in college, but at home I was expected to be a debutante.
I've been to many debutante parties, but the one that is dear to the hearts of many people here in Corpus Christi back in the 50s is Jen's Deb party.
It made Dad and Mama mighty proud, I know. It may have made her sick at her stomach, but it certainly made them proud.
I went to graduate school for a couple of years at the University of Texas. I went to the teacher and asked him, I told him I didn't know what I ought to be doing with my life and what should I do with my life. And he said, well, maybe you ought to marry a professor. I really wanted to be a writer, but I didn't know if I could manage it. And it didn't seem like I could actually be an academic. So his solution was that I should marry a professor. Shortly thereafter, I met a professor who was a charming fellow, an Italian. And when he asked me to marry him, I decided I would do it. I was 23 and he was 40, I guess, or something like that. Being there that afternoon before I got married and sitting there, I was in the guest room, and I just was thinking, this is just the big change in my life, something totally different in front of me. And I felt like Peter Pan or something going off to Never Never Land.
Ferruccio? Oh, well, he was dashing and older and brilliant.
In a way, I felt I was escaping from the society there in Corpus Christi and escaping from an academic career that I wasn't going to be able to have because I wasn't smart enough. And I was going to Italy, which was a whole new, wonderful experience to have, where I would be someplace else than where I had started.